He should be here in any minutes. We're just waiting for him. Please give a warm welcome to Rajiv Malhotra ji. Welcome, sir. Jai. Jai. Mataram. Mataram. Namaste and good evening, everyone. I'm Vinay Pujari, and we FISI welcome you on this occasion of book launch event of the book written by the great author, Sri Rajiv Malhotra ji, titled as Snakes in the Ganga, Breaking India 2.0. I will be your host for today, along with other FISI team members. It's wonderful to see people from so many different communities, social organizations, and many prominent members from the diaspora joining this event. So thank you all for joining this event. Let me begin with brief introduction about Friends of India Society International UK. FISI was established in UK in April 1976 during the state of emergency in India that had led to suspension of democracy, covering many fundamental rights of people and institutions in India. FISI is a non-profit international NGO and is a formidable voice for all India-related matters in the UK. Its ethos and objective is to promote India in the UK. FISI also achieves its objective by engaging in seva for the diaspora when required. We did that during COVID when we joined hands with Indian National Student Association and Seva UK to aid Indian students and other Indian nationals living in the UK during the stressful lockdown period. Recently, we have organized a fundraising campaign to help and support the victims of the tragic Odisha train accident. In case you need any further details and want to contribute, please follow FISI social handles and website. FISI also provides a forum to discuss various issues related to India and render a better understanding of the concerned topic. In line with this objective, we are extremely delighted to launch this groundbreaking book, Snakes in Ganga, Breaking India 2.0 by Shri Rajiv Malhotra ji. The book uncovers the dangers of wokeism to the Indian civilization and surfaces the hypocrisy of people supporting the agenda of breaking India. Now, I will request Madhuresh Mishra ji, President of FISI UK, and Sweta ji, along with Jayo ji Bhai, National Executive Member of FISI, to please invite Rajiv ji and Sanjay ji, Rajiv ji and Sanjay ji, Deputy Director of Nehru Center, on the stage, please. Let's give them a warm welcome. Now I'll request our guests to please launch the book. Thank you, Rajivji. Thank you, Jayubhai. Thank you, everybody. I request our guests to please take a seat on the front row. I will now request Sanjay ji, Deputy Director of the Nehru Center, to please come and say a few words on this occasion and formally welcome Rajiv ji.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Nehru Center. Today, we all have gathered for book launch of Shri Rajiv Malhotra, Snakes in the Ganga. Shri Rajiv Malhotra ji is a world-renowned researcher, author, speaker, thinker, and public intellectual on contemporary issues as they relate to civilization, cross-cultural encounters, spirituality, and science. Rajiv ji was trained initially as a physicist and then as a computer scientist specializing in artificial intelligence. In the 1970s, after a successful corporate career in US, he became an entrepreneur and founded and ran several IT companies in 20 countries. He exited all the profit activities in the companies in 20 countries. He exited all the profit activities in the early 90s as the founder of the non-profit Infinity Foundation in Princeton, USA. He has, on a full-time basis, been researching civilizations from a historical, social sciences, and mind sciences perspective. He has authored several best-selling books. Infinity Foundation has also published a 14-volume series on the history of Indian science and technology. Snakes in the Ganga unveils comfortable truths concerning India's vulnerabilities, intense warfare against India's integrity in the work of a well-orchestrated global machinery driven by a new ideology. TNC is presenting this event in association with Friends of India Society, International FICI, UK. I would like to thank all of you present here for making time to be with us and helping us. I make this event a great success. I thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Before we formally invite Rajiv ji on the stage, we will play a short video to give a brief introduction about the book, Snakes in the Ganga, Breaking India 2.0.
My new book is called Snakes in the Ganga, byline Breaking India 2.0. These snakes we're talking about are the dangerous ideas, individuals, and institutions, especially outside India, that are poisonous, that are spreading this toxin all over the world, including bringing it back to India, with the threat to dismantle India, dismantle its culture and its government, and so on. Where are all these threats suddenly coming from? The articles in Washington Post, the articles in New York Times, and the US government saying we might impose sanctions because of lack of religious freedom. Where are these threats, attacks on India's human rights, and democracy being under threat, and social injustice? Where are these coming from? They are not coming from the individuals who deliver them. Those are messengers. They're coming from think tanks that are very conscious of what they are doing, places like Harvard University, and that is what this book exposes. So these snakes have a certain DNA, a Marxist DNA that has been injected for a certain purpose, for a certain motive. It explains what this is. It explains who funds all this, including some Indians who are funding it. Maybe naively, maybe innocently, or maybe not. But a lot of Indians are also involved in funding this. These snakes are nurtured, bred on a very large scale. Hundreds of them, maybe in the low thousands, have been developed and sent back to India, where they are setting up new institutions. They're infiltrating the government, they're infiltrating the think tanks, they're infiltrating the universities, they are being used in limelight positions, they're also present in the corporate India. So this syndrome of poisonous snakes being bred, specially bred as breaking India forces, as dismantling Hinduism type forces, is the theme of this book. So please go to the website snakesintheganga.com and get yourself a copy and get ready for a lot of discussions. Thank you.
Now I will kindly request Rajiv ji to please come on the stage and address the audience about your book. Please, sir. Please give him a warm welcome.
Namaste. Am I audible? Okay. I want to thank the organizers who worked very hard for the last several months to put my tour together, and of course Amish Tripathi, a dear friend who's the director here, and here is Amish. Please give him a hand. I'm honored to be welcoming you, Amish, here. We're very good friends for a long time, and so it's wonderful. So, first thing I want to tell you is, don't let the size of the book scare you. It's not meant for weightlifting. The book is written at 3 levels. You'll get 99% of the value and the benefit of the book in a few hours. Read the introduction, read the conclusion chapter, and in between, every chapter has a 1-page summary. It's written such that if you go on a long flight for a few hours, you can, within 100 pages, you can get the idea, the whole thesis of the book, which I will explain to you. You will get the whole thesis of the book. What you will not get, for which you need to read further, and you read only selectively those things that you want to read further, what you will not get will be the proof. Because the proof, the evidence, the quotations, where things happened, who did what, why, who funded this and who funded that, is given in the details. So if you want to know what is the thesis, and you want to say, let's me trust Rajiv at face value, what he says must be true, so then you only need to do the level 1 reading. And for 99% of people, that's more than enough. If they were to do it and act on it, it would be so great. Those of you who want to then go and take it up as a fight and make it your intellectual Kshatriya cause, will run into situations where people on the opposite side will say, prove it, I don't believe it, and they'll give you some argument. And then you can go back to the book on that particular chapter and read more. The third level is about 300 pages of endnotes and bibliography at the end, which is for scholars who want to do a PhD, who want to do a dissertation. They need to do all that. So it's written at 3 levels. And it's written as one book rather than separately, so that, everyone who has a copy of this is very confident that I have the backup. The backup is also right here inside the same book. That's why it's a large book, but you need to read about 100 pages, and I think that is all I'm looking for most people. Now, I want to talk about the tectonic forces that are threatening India, that are undermining India, and they are so different than the first Breaking India book exposed, that this is now called Breaking India 2.0. I want to talk about not only what the threats are, but how to confront them and how to counter them, because that's very important. We are not explaining and interpreting the threat so you can get scared. We are explaining so you can get empowered. So the first, out of these 6 or 7 major categories, the first is ideological. There's a whole new ideology. Most of you, when you think of Marxism, you never connect it with the United States. It's the most capitalist, anti-Marxist kind of country that you think. But let me tell you, Marxism has been reincarnated in a whole new form, which is made in America. What has happened is, in traditional Marxism, you have the theory that people are oppressors and oppressed. And this is economic theory of oppression. And Marxism wants to build an anti-narrative, a counter to the narrative of the oppressor, and wants to have a revolution and overthrow that. So what has now happened is that instead of talking about economic oppression, Marxism has been expanded to include race, so blacks being oppressed, LGBTQ being oppressed by those who are straight, Muslims being oppressed by other religions, and this is all United States happening. And very recently, Dalits being included as oppressed people. So this coalition of oppressed uses Marxist idea that we should all stay together and defeat the oppressor. All the structures of society, government is a structure, family is a structure that should be broken, family, and so on. All the structures of society have to be dismantled because the oppressors built them. And because they continue to survive and thrive generation after generation, because they are the keepers of this structure. So it's a very intelligent actually thing. It says that you have inherited certain structures which give you privilege. You are not a bad person as an individual, but you are enjoying those structures. Those structures give you the benefits that I don't have as an oppressed person. That's kind of the argument. So the logic is that meritocracy, what we call meritocracy, may the best person win, that's meritocracy, on which the United States became such a great nation. The success of the United States is because of the meritocracy, and hence it became the leader of innovation in the world. Meritocracy is being attacked because the very idea of meritocracy is a conspiracy of the oppressors to keep us oppressed. So we can never get ahead under this so-called meritocracy. IITs are being attacked. There's a book by Harvard professor Ajanta Subramaniam that is there are legal cases being fought in Silicon Valley against IIT people on the basis that you are perpetuating a kind of oppression because IIT is an institution of oppression. This is very strange, but this is what's going on. And so the idea is that a quota system is now coming into the United States, which is called equity. Equality means we're all equal, and the best person will become the surgeon or the pilot or the director of something, merit. But equity is not the same thing as equality. Equity says to have equity, the people should be representative of all segments of society, all identities, whether you're good or bad. A certain percentage of people of LGBTQ should become surgeons and pilots, and a certain percentage of blacks and Hispanics and all kind of minorities. A certain percentage of Muslims should become leaders. So it's a quota in every place. A quota in corporate boards, in quota in all the different realms, in quota in academics. I have people who are physicists working with Nobel laureates who are leaving the US universities and going to other countries because they're saying that this business of critical race theory and wokeism and equity is affecting their career. So the paper is not being accepted on merit in a scientific journal, but based on its relevance for social justice. Somebody else whose paper may be inferior, but is constantly quoting social justice and these kind of things, his paper will get in, and your paper won't, because it did not argue on that basis. So America is also losing its meritocracy because of these internal things. Nobody else has attacked America. It's an internal thing, an internal homebred Marxism, which is going in the name of critical race theory and also wokeism. So it's like termites eating from within. Now, it affects Indians and Hindus in the United States, and I would say also in Britain and elsewhere, because we came there entirely on merit. Nobody gave me any favors. Nobody did anything special to help us out. We came as individuals, fighting against all odds, and entirely based on merit, we became successful. And so now we are being told that this meritocracy is a sham, that you are basically taking advantage of structures that were created by oppressors in the United States. So, one of the arguments of this ideology is that people of color cannot get ahead. They have to dismantle the whole system. They have to have a revolution and break it down. The reason being that people of color the system does not accept the people of color to advance. It is, the meritocracy won't allow them to advance. But then the facts are opposite. Indians have the highest per capita income in the United States. Asians in general. In education, we are the best. In jobs, we are the best. So how does this ideology reconcile that people of color like us are doing so well? So what they have come up with to address this is to brand us white adjacent. So I am called white adjacent, which means you are not really white, but you are white adjacent means you are a conspirator with the whites, because your success is the result of supporting the structures, supporting the meritocracy, supporting the system. You're part of the system. That system is an abusive system against oppressed people, and you are supporting the system. So all of you who are doing very well, it's because you are white adjacent. This is a term being used. Now, there is a term called protected classes in US law, civil rights law, and there are criminal consequences. It's a civil law and also criminal law. Protected classes are people who have been designated by the law in the United States as people who deserve special protection. So blacks, and now there are other type of groups. So Muslims are lobbying to become protected class by banning anybody engaged in what they would consider Islamophobia. See, this is very interesting. US Constitution says you cannot discriminate on religion. So why would you ban Islamophobia and not ban Hindu phobia or Christian phobia or Jewish phobia? Phobias against all religions. But there is a bill to criminalize Islamophobia, which says that the US government at the cabinet level should appoint a committee that will be scanning Islamophobia. It will be constituted by Muslims. And anywhere in the world, anyone who is accused of Islamophobia will have US law working against him. So many people around here would be considered Islamophobic and violating US law if that bill passed. So this bill passed the US Congress, which is the lower house, with only one vote against it. So you can imagine the amount of support from the Democratic Party to go put it through, because the Muslim lobby is so strong. And then it was put in the Senate for vote. And that's when I got notified of this. So the senator who put it on the floor of the US Senate is a New Jersey senator, Cory Booker, an African American, a decent man, somebody I have funded and supported, and I liked him a lot. But when this happened, I called his office and said, why don't you say that this law should ban Islamophobia and Hindu phobia and Christian phobia, Jewish phobia, all the phobias against all the religions. If you want to have hate speech criminalized, then it should be against any religion should be equal treated. They didn't respond at all. So I went public and wrote a whole lot of online stuff, and this created a big furor. And the bill just froze. It never went through. It just died. Bill died. Otherwise, it would have gone through and it would have become law because Biden would have signed it. So we would have had a... Now, of course, even if it had passed, people would protest and people would challenge it as unconstitutional because it's giving favorite treatment to one religion. Imagine what you are doing by having a law that says don't criticize Islam because it's considered Islamophobic and then it will be a criminal offense. Then what you are doing is in classrooms and in offices and all that, you are creating conflict among people, because one person will say, hey, you dare not criticize me, but I can make fun of your deities. I can say you are worshipping a monkey and an elephant, and you're worshipping phallus, and all these kind of horrible things that they say. And we have no defense, but they have a defense. This would not be fair. That's why I criticized it. Not that I want people to attack Islam or any religion. I want people to respect all the faiths, but it should be on an equal. I want to respect your faith, but I demand that you respect mine. That has to be mutual. So you see, as meritocratic people, Indian Americans have a lot to lose because we earned our place on merit. And as family people, they consider family to be an abusive structure because they say that the child learns to be abusive because he copies it from the parents. And so the family structure itself is to be dismantled. This is why this whole LGBTQ and this gender fluidity, you can be male, female, you can cross over back and forth, there is no hard line. And there are some very embarrassing, very interesting videos where a senior person in the US Congress or Senate has been asked, can you define what is a woman? And the person doesn't want to define what's a woman because their belief is that there's no such thing. And so they've come up with terms like birthing bodies, which means a body is capable of giving birth. That's called woman. So a very mechanized, demeaning, and the feminists are against it. So now this business of dismantling womanhood in order to dismantle families is created a clash with the conventional, traditional white feminists. They are very upset at this. This business that there is no such thing as women, per se, so a man could have a sex change operation, call himself a woman, and compete in the Olympics and in sports with women and win medals. There is a swimmer who's now winning all kinds of medals in the United States, and the women swimmers are upset because this is a male who became a female. So you see, this business of dismantling structures is also dismantling the idea of sexuality and gender and family, not just government and politics and race, but all structures are considered to be abusive because all structures were made by supremacists and oppressors. This is how ridiculous the whole thing is. Now, how is this taking shape in the form of forces on the ground? This is ideology, but let's move on beyond ideology. So I was in Canada having a debate with Khalistan people in the Gurdwara. So somebody invited me and said, do you want to have a conversation? I said, yeah, I'll address them. If they're civil people, I'll talk to them. I'll give them my point of view. So I was heckled and booed and all that. So I walked out. I said, this is not what I wanted. I wanted a debate. So the leader was he said, come, I'll scold them and they have to sit and listen to you. So I basically said, listen, they are shouting, that Punjab is being destroyed by RSS and Brahmins. So I said, how many of you have seen RSS people in Punjab? And too many RSS Brahmins. How many Brahmins in Punjab? Are they running the show? How many of them in the government? Do you know who is destroying your Punjab villages? And they started looking at me like that. I said, drugs. It's not brought by some RSS people or Brahmins. Who brings the drugs? That's who's destroying. And your own political leaders, your own leaders in the Gurdwaras are in bed with these drug dealers because they get money out of it. They are part of the drug crime, and that is what's destroying your villages and your youth. And I said, what is the other biggest destruction of Punjab? Again, they were looking around. I said, Christian evangelism. They're converting more Sikhs. There is more conversion in Punjab than anywhere else in India. And they were shocked. And the person standing next to me, he said, yeah, this is true. I said, the World Council of Churches has put out a statement saying that by 2030, we want that more Sikh youth will be going to church than to Gurdwara. That means in the next 7 years, there'll be more Christianity than Sikhism in your own state. And the biggest cathedral in all of Asia is near Jalandhar. People, they all knew these things, but they're not putting it together. So they were stunned, these fellows. Now I understand, I got into the details of why there is a Khalistan problem in Canada. I don't know about Britain, I haven't done the investigation. But the reason is that the Jats have been designated, the Sikh Jats, which is the Khalistanis are Sikh Jats. They're not the other kind of Sikhs. The Sikhs has got many communities. The Jats, who are very prosperous. They are peasants, they are farmers. The farmers in Punjab, very successful, very rich. The Jats have been designated as a protected class in Canada. Protected class means they're under threat, they are oppressed. And they made the case with politicians and they put it through the system. And so now, if all you have to do from Punjab is apply as somebody under threat, and in the refugee quota, you will get your immigration immediately. The normal quota will take, the normal line to get in Canada takes many years, and you have to go through a lot of procedure. But if you want a fast track to get into Canada, you just have to say that I'm a Jat under threat and produce some story, and you have lawyers. There's a whole lawyers, a whole kind of a cottage industry of lawyers, immigration lawyers, whose main career is to get Jats into Canada under immigration, charge them a lot of fees. So this is a scam. The whole thing is a scam. And our ministry needs to know these things, that basically the Canadian government has allowed this to happen because they've created a special quota for immigration for such people. So you see, this ideology I just described has consequences. If you want to understand the deeper causes of what is causing so many of these separatists to be adopted in certain countries, you have to see under what immigration category they came. They came in the category of refugees, most of them, refugees. And so under that category, they have to prove that I'm under threat. And to prove I'm under threat, you have to adopt all this wokeism and all this new kind of Marxism and prove I'm oppressed. That's the connection between the ideology and the ground reality that we are fighting. So there are many examples I won't give, but you can read them in the book. Harvard University has a Suraj Yengde, who's become like the poster boy of a Dalit oppressed person, although he's flying first class and he's very proud that he's got this much and that much donation and contribution and whatnot. So he's living the good life, but he's claiming to be representing the oppressed. He considers himself to be the successor of Ambedkar. That is what he goes around saying. And he's built this Afro-Dalit coalition. Afro-Dalit means African, blacks and Dalits are brothers. And in my first book, Breaking India, the original Breaking India 1.0, I have chapter after chapter on Afro-Dalits. I predicted this 12, 13 years ago. People didn't take it seriously. Read that book under the heading Afro-Dalits and you will see the whole explanation of what is being developed that far back. And now it has become reality. So now what has happened is, because we ignored it, we didn't take it seriously, our people just didn't take it seriously, they thought this is not possible. But it is reality. So now in every black church, in every black institution there is, Dalits are being brought in as sort of the Dalits are black adjacent. We are white adjacent, and they are black adjacent. Yeah, you see, there was a time when to get ahead in America, people would fake some kind of whiteness. Like Bobby Jindal was a politician who would try to become white. So I would make fun that these are honorary whites. That's the way to get ahead in the American system. But now, the latest gimmick is that you can become an honorary black and you can get ahead. Because as an honorary black, you consider a protected class and you have all kind of quotas and all kind of privileges. So this coalition is becoming very strong. The left is providing the intellectual gravitas, the intellectual rigor, dignity, decency, ability to talk nice, slick, quote, academic language. They give it respect because they have all this theory. That's the left. And the Islamists are being used as the ground forces who can create Gadar, who can go or become rowdy and do all sorts of things. Blacks have been appropriated as useful ground forces to do all the heavy lifting and fighting. And then the LGBTQ people have been recruited. And now the Dalits. So the left is providing a kind of a coalition. They create a coalition of all these grievances. These are called grievances, grievance people. Anyone with grievance can make a case that people like me are biased, prejudiced by other people. And therefore we should have a quota. So sometimes I'm thinking I should say that men who are bald with glasses are grievance people. And if I can get 1 lakh signatures, then we may have a quota for that. So this is and there is a field of study called grievance studies in the US liberal arts. You have grievance studies, where there is a special, one of the categories coming up is called fat studies. So people who are overweight are saying that there is bias against us. There is nothing wrong with being fat. There's no medical proof that being fat is bad and all that. It's all made up bias against us by people who are not fat. So there is a grievous category called fat. And so on, all kind of weird grievances. So this business of turning all kind of people with grievances into oppressed, uniting them and fighting against the system as a system of oppression, that is what is wokeism and critical race theory. And that is why the United States is losing its competitiveness, because it's no longer a meritocracy and it's losing out to China, which is laughing all the way at this kind of a thing. So there are so many examples facing Indians. There are lawsuits against Cisco. Somebody made a lawsuit, Cisco had to defend it, that this Brahmin did not give a promotion to this guy because he's a Dalit. So they had to have a big fight over that legally. And now there are cases where many states and cities and many universities, starting with Harvard, have enacted a policy, official policy, that says that caste is a form of racism. And all the laws of racism in the United States, which, as you can imagine, are very serious laws. The laws against racism are very tough. I mean, you are accused of racism, it's pretty bad. It's like, dowry murder in India. You just have to be accused, and a lot of laws are there. In the United States, racism has those kind of laws. And now to club caste as a form of racism means that somebody just has to have to go there and file a complaint that, hey, you didn't hire me, or you did this and that because of my caste, because I'm a Dalit. So you've created a lot of boost to this clash, the conflicts that are within society. And so this is, there's a lot written in this book, and even more than what's written in the book we are coming out with. So these are two things I've told you. One is the ideology, and the second is the forces on the ground that are being trained with this kind of ideology and given empowerment to create Gadar against United States, against India. Actually, the book, this Snakes in the Ganga, I started out writing a book called Breaking America. That was my title, because I thought that what I'm discovering is actually breaking America. And a lot of white Americans were very concerned, said, you should get that book out because that's a very important topic, and I'm thinking of getting that book out also. But then I figured, India needs to know about this because this is all happening to India very quickly. And so I turned it into Indian examples just to get it out very quickly. But I will also work on Breaking America. And I'm sure there is also need for a Breaking Britain book, because you have... We have snakes in the Thames also, and some crocodiles also. So not just ordinary snakes. So you see, the third area, so we talked about ideology, we talked about the forces. The third area is like, who's funding it? And this is where it's very sad. Indian billionaires have put up chairs in Harvard. There is a Mahindra Humanities Center where they're doing this kind of work. They're bringing all the Khalistanis, they're bringing the Islamists, and they're bringing all these sort of people to create problems for India. And there is a Lakshmi Mittal and Family Center for South Asia Studies. They're doing this. There's a Piramal Center for Public Health. But what are the papers they produced? Papers like, were Dalits given fair treatment during COVID? Was there a prejudice in vaccination, prejudice against Muslims? These are kind of topics, you can produce any knowledge based on who you fund and what the topic is. So and there was not a single topic in the Piramal. I'm meeting Ajay Piramal, I've written to him, and he said, fine, I'll meet you. So next time in September, I'll meet him and I'll tell him all this. There was not a single paper in any of his presentations, any of the seminars, because he runs the Piramal School, the Center for Public Health at Harvard. Not a single one on the use of Ayurveda as a successful treatment. Not a single paper like that. Not a single paper that India actually pioneered a lot of the vaccination, gave free vaccinations and inexpensive vaccinations to the largest population in the world, and India managed the COVID crisis quite well compared to its considering the level of income of people. I thought that the Piramal Center at Harvard would showcase our success rather than showcasing how we are not doing justice to the Muslims and the Dalits and all that, putting our dirty linen out there. there. And the same Piramal, the same Mahindra, and the same Mittal, and many others like them are considered big heroes in India. They're awarded and considered big netas, and not netas in the political sense, but like nationalistic and political leaders. But what is going on? Why is it that in India they're one way, and they have a lot of machinery for PR, but when they go to Harvard, they suck up to this kind of a wokeism and give them money? Is it because they want their kids to get in? Is it because they have an inferiority complex? They want to become like white adjacent, maybe they want to become. Maybe this good business deal. Maybe you'll sit on a board or some committee and you rub shoulders with some guys who are big shots and get deals, business deals. Whatever the reason is, I'm only concerned about why the hell are they doing all this, and they should explain. So, then, there is one of the worst anti-Hindu, anti-India professors anywhere in the Western world is a man called Hansen. He's written so many books against, Hindutva, chauvinism, fascism, this saffron, India is losing its democracy. He just goes on and on, writing books and papers still all the time he's doing that. And guess what is his official job title? His official job title is Reliance Dhirubhai Ambani Professor at Stanford. What a shameful thing. That's on his card. So I'm not telling you anything. I'm not doing badnami of the Reliance people. This is on the card of this guy. And this is the backdrop on which all these talks happen. And this is at Stanford University. So either, I don't think Mukesh Ambani could say he doesn't know this. He must know this. So why is it going on is an important issue. The other thing that in the corporate world, they have come up with these indexes. There is an ESG index, there is a DEI index. These kind of indexes are measuring how good a citizen you are as a company, as a business. And there are certain people who give certificates of these indexes. These are the American and some British consulting companies, McKinsey, Pricewaterhouse, all these kind of companies. They're going around looking at, are you having enough social justice? How is your policy on environment? These kind of things. The intention seems very nice. But the criteria being applied is not our Vedic criteria of social justice. It's a very different Marxist and Judeo-Christian type of criteria of social justice. I asked them that if you want to have a score on environmental, behavior, then you should condemn the meat industry, because my idea of environment respects all life. That's part of the environment. It is not that the environment is raw material. We don't want oil to run out, and therefore we don't want to kill the fish because it's bad for the fishing industry. It's not an industrial logic of what constitutes good environmental behavior. It's also all respect for life, all life, plants, and life has its own personhood. The earth is a person. Earth is a person, Bhudevi. And we all the animals, plants, they are persons. So when you apply the Vedic criteria of good behavior for environmentalism, it will be a whole different idea of what is sattvic, what is not sattvic. Nothing in the ESG movement has even one sentence reflecting our values. It's all values that came from somewhere else. Our people are parroting this, and thousands of people are being trained how to go around measuring. They have a certain measurement, and they have a criteria. They ask you these questions and figure out on ESG your score is good, not good. If the score is bad, you will not get funding. Banks and international funding institutions are being told this guy's score is bad. In fact, this Adani was into this. They said they'll withdraw certain funding because of his ESG rating gone down. So now they'll be looking at your social behavior. Did you shake hands with the Dalit, or did you go and shake hands with the Brahmin? And did you go to the mosque and do the puja during Eid, the prayer during Eid or not? And so this face recognition and keeping track of all your whereabouts will give you a rating, your score. And so your own consultants will tell you, sir, you better do this, that in front of cameras, because our rating will go up, we'll get good funding. So this is now turned the whole ideology that I talked about into indexes to measure how compliant you are with these ideologies. And then these indexes are being administered by consulting companies who are trained in this, and this is taking over the corporate world. And I have friends who mean very well in India, who are smart, intelligent, and their kids are an ESG director here, or DEI director there. These kind of different alphabetic acronyms representing various indexes. The definition of the index is coming from outside. The training on how you administer the index is coming from outside. The ideological controls are coming from outside. It's a colonial system. It's a system of colonizing you without you even knowing it. By telling you that, this means you are good for environment or good for social justice, so we'll pat your back and we'll fly you to Harvard and you'll be felicitated and you'll get an award and so on. So there are, probably the most dangerous of this is something called RFBF. I won't mention details unless somebody asks me a question, I'll tell you. But this is the third thing. This is the industry role as a breaking India force. The fourth is media. And I want time for Q&A, so I want to go through this very quickly. The Harvard Newman Center is training a whole lot of media people, journalists here and there, and this ideology is being taught on India, concerning India. So when you see an article in the BBC, those journalists, and Wall Street Journal and Washington Post, those journalists got their training in this kind of logic. So you cannot just fight one journalist. You have to go up the system. And then in this, aligned with the Harvard training of journalists and the Harvard training of Indian government officials go there for training at the Kennedy School, aligned with this are Indian billionaires who are funding it. So the journalism training at Harvard, there are a lot of Indians who are also supporting scholarships, fellowships, research grants, and helping them. And some of the Indian billionaires are funding, Azim Premji is a major one. They're funding mechanisms in India, funds where a lot of them put their money together, and then they put money into the Wire and certain type of anti-national type of media outlets. And there is no transparency. On the one hand, on one side, they're funding journalists as individuals to build their career. They take them to Harvard, get them a thappa, get them, make them a certain type of ideological journalist. And then to build his career, they get him his articles planted in the Wire because they're funding the Wire. So the media company is funded for promoting a certain ideology, and the individual journalists who are promising in this way are funded, and the two are put together. These are the funding mechanisms we've exposed in this book. Now, a major problem with media is the arrival of AI. That's the subject of another book